Is rental car insurance worth it? It can be, especially if you're planning on chasing tornadoes. Let me explain. After I wrote the Everything Weather book, a tornado chase company called Tempest Tours, which I'd featured in the book, asked if I'd like to come chase with them. This is probably going to come as a big surprise to many of you, but freelancers don't make a lot of money, so I asked if there was a cheaper option than their standard rates. They told me I could rent a car and follow their van, but I'd be responsible for my own food and lodging. I agreed. Before I left, I was making my rental reservation when my wife asked me to make sure I got the insurance. I argued that it wasn't necessary, but she insisted. I got the insurance. On the third day of the tour, we saw a large wedge tornado form and destroy the town of Happy, Texas. It was as majestic and tragic as you can imagine. There was some wild weather the rest of the week as well, but on the next to last day of the trip, we had pulled over to watch a gorgeous sunset when I looked behind me and saw a descending column of white approaching, which I knew was a hail core. I yelled to the guys in the van, jumped into my rental, and took off, trying to outrun it. On the main road, the van actually passed me, but it was all for naught. The hailstorm hit, with baseball-sized hail blasting sideways and my car rocking back and forth, side mirrors blowing out and the deafening sound of something like mortar fire hitting the roof. When it was over, we inspected the damage. My rental had deep dents in all the horizontal surfaces. When I took it back to the agency, everybody actually stopped and went out to look at it. Even in Oklahoma City, it was considered severe damage. The only thing that saved my ass was that damage insurance. Thanks, spousal unit. As an insurance broker and underwriter for over 20 plus, I believe it is absolutely worth buying the Vehicle Physical Damage (VPD) coverage if you already have your own personal auto liability policy. Why? 1. Because if you are in an auto accident, you do not have to pay the deductible required by your car insurance carrier. 2. If you are in an accident, it won't go against your auto carrier as a ding, and your coverage won't go up. Usually when you rent a car, you are in a new city, don't know the area, the roads, etc. And accidents do happen. Better to pay the $8.99 or whatever the cost a day rather than the $500 out of pocket or more for your deductible. 3. If you are renting the car for business, hell, yes, you should take the auto coverage on both the liability and the auto damage. Why let any of that come back to you? And 4. I have personally used the VPD twice. Once it was a silly thing for a tire and once was for a cracked windshield that neither my husband, me or the customer service rep saw before we left the lot, but saw upon our return. We saw it just after we left the garage. Had we not bought the coverage, it would have been our word against the car company. This way we paid nothing but the $8.99 for VPD for the day and walked away. Think twice before you say no to the coverage, even if you have on your own auto policy. Buying their Vehicle Physical Damage is not a waste of money, in my opinion. Always. I am a licensed insurance agent in my province, Canada. It's tricky because auto insurance falls into two categories: physical damage and liability. As stated in other answers, most credit cards have provision for physical damage, collision damage waiver, or CDW. But most do not have liability coverage, typically not a concern in our province as vehicle registration insurance generally covers this. But a huge concern if you don't have it. So whatever you do, make sure you've got liability at the very least, either through your primary insurer or the rental company. I read my credit card rental wordings over several times and the coverage seems quite good, honestly. I even called to be sure downtime, loss of use was covered. It was. Note, this was a TD card, so check with your own bank as to applicable wordings. Typically I purchase the physical damage (CDW) coverage through my auto package. It's $40 per year, way cheaper than purchasing through the rental company. But because I was traveling outside North America, the coverage through my package would not extend. So I ended up using my credit card's coverage. Thankfully nothing happened, but I'd never travel without it. It's cheap or often free with your credit card, and I've processed too many claims to opt out of coverage. As a parting thought, be sure to check that whatever coverage you go with, that loss of use downtime is covered. Rental companies can charge you the cost of the rental for every day it's in the shop for repairs, as they lose income. Rental car insurance costs vary by company and coverage, but one thing's for sure, it isn't cheap. Considering that you can often rent an economy car for not much more than that, and sometimes less, if you get a good deal, that kind of daily tab for rental car insurance is a tough pill to swallow. Here's how to decode rental car coverage. Loss Collision Damage Waiver. The Loss Damage Waiver, or LDW, is sometimes called the Collision Damage Waiver, or CDW. The LDW lets you off the hook for costs if your rental car is stolen, vandalized, or damaged in a crash. This may include loss of use charges, which rental car companies charge for lost profits when they must repair a vehicle. Liability, sometimes called Supplemental Liability Insurance, or SLI. Rental liability insurance covers you if you damage other vehicles or property while driving the rental car. It can also pay medical expenses for others who are hurt in a crash you caused. Personal Accident Insurance. Personal Accident Insurance, or PI, covers medical costs for you and your passengers if you're hurt in a rental car crash. Personal Effects Coverage. Personal Effects Coverage, or PEC, covers you if any personal items are stolen from or damaged in your rental car.